President Yoweri Museveni, welcome to this show and thank you for talking to Al Jazeera.
Thank you.
Your visiting this side of the Middle East, the Arab side, hasn't been a pattern in your foreign policy. What does it mean now?
No, actually, right from the anti-colonial struggle, we were working with Arabs, Gamal Abdel Nasser, King Muhammad V of Morocco, Ben Bera, Boumediene, later on Muammar Gaddafi. These are the Arabs we are dealing with in the anti-colonial struggle. Now, we had links with Saudi Arabia through the people who go to Mecca. But after our struggles, we heard about Dubai. Dubai had become like an entrepot.
But since 1994, Mr. President, you have shifted to the Israeli side and you have strengthened your ties with the Israelis and made your economic and political deals with the Israelis rather than with the Arabs.
That's not true. Yes, we established diplomatic relations with Israel, but we did not abandon our position on...
in terms of economic cooperation?
Not only economic cooperation, even diplomatic. Our stand is principled, because originally we did not have relations with Israel, because Israel refused to recognize the right of the Palestinians. However, when there was agreement on the two-state solution, then we started working with Israel. We don't have much economic dealings with Israel. We have dealings on security side, military equipment and things like that. But we buy, we pay. It's not aid or anything.
For the time being, could you tell us something about your present visit and what type of cooperation you are seeking in this during this visit?
We have now Gulf Airlines started coming to Uganda. Gulf Air, Qatari Airways, some other airlines, I've forgotten their names. There are a number of them. They come. So, building on that, then we started getting contacts with the Qataris, and that's how I came here. So it's not a new shift. It is maybe addition to what we were doing already.
Before leaving the Middle East, last July when Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited you in Entebbe and you were speaking in his presence, you used the word Palestine several times instead of Israel. And according to the news and the reports, he was very angry. Did you mean that? Did you mean it? And was there a message in it to the Israelis and the Arabs?
You see, for us, as far as this part of the world is concerned, we are guided by the Bible. We read the Bible. I'm not the one who wrote the Bible. The Bible was written, I don't know, by the people who wrote it. So all you people are mentioned there.
So you stand by your words?
Yes.
That it is Palestine, not Israel?
The Philistines are mentioned. Judah is mentioned. Israel is mentioned. You are all there. Ibrahim is mentioned.
So you stand by it?
Yes, of course.
It upset the Israelis?
No, I don't know. They didn't tell me. They didn't tell me, and I wouldn't go from the facts to please people.
When you were a rebel leader, freedom fighter, you said once that you would never have ties with Israel as long as the Palestinians are homeless. But now you have ties with Israel for about 20 years. The Palestinians are still homeless.
No, the point was that at that time, Israel had not recognized the Palestinians. Once they did that, then we really didn't have any good reason. Because also we don't agree with the other extremism on the Arab side, who are saying that Israel does not belong to the Middle East. I remember when I went to Iran, I talked with those people there, that position of theirs we could not agree because it is in the Bible. For us, we follow the Bible. Israel is there. Philistines, people called Philistines, a man called Goliath.
Yeah, so is it now Palestine or Israel?
It is both, because they were all there. It is both. Because remember, David fought with Goliath. The one was a Philistine, the other one was, which I suspect Philistine must have something to do with Palestine. The word sounds...
During more than 3 decades, there must be something that you are very proud of to boast.
You mean
or there must be something that is very concerning to you about the way you ruled Uganda.
Our achievements and so on.
Yes.
You see, Africa, including Uganda, are very rich countries. They have got a lot of natural resources. They are ancient societies with a very old civilization. But the problem has been the organization of the society. The society was organized in a pre-capitalist way, traditional way.
So, President, can we talk about the achievements you have done for Uganda in the last 3 decades?
That's what I'm coming to. Yeah. Because the issue was to transform a traditional pre-industrial society to the modern era. And I can tell you that we have achieved a lot. We have, first of all, modern education. As I speak today, population of Uganda is like 40 million. More than 25% of them are in schools. Primary schools, secondary schools, universities. Through universal education. On the side of health, that's how the population has jumped from 14 million in 1986 to now 40 million.
Uganda is still one of the poorest countries in the world. Uganda still has tremendous problems in terms of infrastructure, sanitation, health issues. All of this is still there.
Yeah, they are still there, but we have moved a long way. A long way.
How much more time you need after 31 years to finish off this job and to transform Uganda?
Let's first talk about the mileage covered. The kilometers of roads we have covered for tarmacking are now approaching 6,000 kilometers from about 800. For the first time, we have got surplus electricity. The telephones, these small phones.
So, President, these are relative figures, and we can talk also about the other side, the empty side of the cup. We still have almost a fifth of the population under the poverty line. We still have, as I said, homelessness in Uganda. We still have a lot of lack of sanitation and infrastructure. But let's move forward from this.
No, but before we leave that, the people under poverty in 1990 were 56%. The ones now under poverty are 19%. Yes, that's 1/5, but we have covered the 4/5. So if your mathematics is working well, then it should help you.
I hope Uganda has done similar progress on other fronts. Let's talk about the political side, the freedoms. Human Rights Watch, in its latest report, criticized Uganda's government's dealings in terms of human rights, suppression of free speech, putting dissidents in jail. We have the case of Stella Nyazi, who is still in jail because she just expressed herself. And we have the opposition leader who has been in jail several times. And we have the government cracking down on opponents and preventing people from rallying freely. By law, more than 5 people should have the consent and the agreement of the police before they can express themselves in the street.
Uganda is one of the most democratic countries in the world. In terms of free speech, We have something like 250 private radios, which say whatever they want. We have so many television stations, private. I don't know how many you have here in Qatar, private ones. I don't know, you could tell me. I only see Al Jazeera, but for us we have so many. The empowerment of women, we've got many women compared to so many countries in leadership.
Why is activist Stella Niazi in jail just because she expressed herself?
Well, if you are an activist and you commit an offense, because rights, to enjoy rights, you must also respect the rights of others. You cannot trample on the rights of others and you say it is my right to abuse other people, to insult other people. No. Rights go with responsibilities, if you know anything about democracy.
Why was the opposition leader Kizza Besigye put in jail several times during the time of the elections?
Because he broke some laws.
Like what?
For instance, in order to have elections, you must have a regulator, the election commissioner, who says now this political party, it is your time to hold the rally here. You there, tomorrow here. Now, if you don't follow that, you will have chaos. And we cannot allow chaos just because you are pretending to be a political leader. You must follow order.
More than just jail and cracking down on dissent, we have even bloodshed in Uganda.
The what?
Bloodshed.
Bloodshed?
Yes, in western Uganda. In Rwenzori area.
Rwenzori?
Yes, just a few months ago, more than 100 people were killed by security forces who attacked a traditional cultural kingdom in the area, saying that that place has terrorists inside it.
Yes.
What do you say to this? Terrorists?
That issue is in court, and according to our law, when something is in court, I'm not allowed to comment. The court will tell us whether those people were arrested for nothing or not.
We're talking about those who were killed, not those who are now in court.
Yes, even the ones who were killed, whether they were killed for no reason, we shall find out from the court, because it is in the court now. There is, we call it a principle of sub judice. Because if I start saying they were wrong, they were this, giving the reasons, then I'm interfering with the court.
Yeah, but with the international
what I can tell you is that since the matter is in the court, you bring all your cameras, come to the court, and film what those people are saying. You will get the facts.
Yes.
I invite you.
But we here and our audience, in the international audience of Al Jazeera, we don't know what happened. We're not going to be in the court to see it. We want you, Mr. President, to explain to us why you sent your troops to that area, to Kasese, to kill more than 100 people.
Because they were breaking the law, they were making...
In what manner? In what manner?
That will come in the court.
They were just guarding the palace and they didn't even have weapons, according to the reports.
First of all, the kings in Uganda, we have got many kings. They are not guarded by militias. They are guarded by the national...
Just because he is guarded, you think that's dissent?
Well, I'm just giving you facts. Kings are guarded by the national army, not by a militia. So if you say there was a militia guarding, then already you're getting yourself...
But they're not armed. They have machetes. They just wanted to protect the palace.
Those facts will come in the court. The court is open. You are most welcome.
According to the reports we have, the king was persecuted and those people were killed because they opposed the president in the election, because they are not pro the ruling government.
Not at all. There are so many... and if they opposed the president, what were the militia doing? What were the militia doing? Do political parties have militias? According to what you hear in a democracy.
If a militia is not armed and if it is not killing people, then what's the problem, Mr. President?
Where you come to the court, you would hear why those people were...
The man who led the assault on Kasese, his name is Peter Elwelu, he was a brigadier in the army at the time. And instead of him being now in the court, he was promoted general and he is now the commander of the land forces. Yes. Why, if you have those people in the court, why don't you also have the man who opened fire on your citizens alongside those people in the court now to answer to the questions of the judge.
That means he was doing his duty.
Duty to kill?
To
he killed more than 100 people.
To deal with...
And now he's promoted.
Yes, I am the one who promoted him.
And 2 days ago, the U.S. government refused. They blocked his going to Malawi to attend a conference on security because of that.
I don't know about the United States. Uganda is big enough for Major General Yoweri to operate there. I don't know why he's dying to go to the United States. But
no, he's not going. He was going to Malawi, and he was blocked by the Americans because they are supervising that conference because of what he did in Kasese. So he's accused.
Well, I'm not a prefect about American actions. I am a leader of Uganda, and I'm telling you that Yoweri did his duty, and there is now peace in that area.
So it was pacified.
It was
because it was crushed.
It was definitely justified, but all this will come in the court.
So, President, it seems that Ugandans are a little bit fed up with you because we are reading a lot of reports about this Facebook revolution, people trying to go to the streets even though they are prevented, they are afraid, of course, of the security forces, but they want to create something like, the Arab Spring in Uganda. People are fed up because it's more than 3 decades of your leadership, and term after term after term, it's only one man ruling the country, and the world around Uganda has changed. All presidents around Uganda have gone, but you. So do you agree with me that there is a little bit of fatigue of your leadership?
Have you heard of something called democracy? Have you heard of it?
I heard of it.
Democracy means you elect the people you like. We had elections about 1 year ago, and my party got 62% of the vote, and in fact it would have been more if it was not for quite a bit of spoiled votes. So that does not show that the people of Uganda are fed up of our party, because they have voted for us 5 times, winning free competition. So if you think that the majority of Ugandans are fed up of the NRM, then the vote doesn't show that.
Electing you 5 times doesn't mean that the election was fair and free. And that's what the opposition says. The opposition says you were elected 5 times because you're in control, you're in the government, and you control the military, and you can easily manipulate the elections.
So why did we lose some districts in the elections?
Why did we what?
Why did we lose elections in some districts?
Oh, but that's just to justify, to make it look like a real democracy. You have to lose something.
It was arranged that we handed some districts to the opposition.
Why, Mr. President, have you
Don't you think that is a ridiculous...
Why have you run for 5 terms? Why?
The issues of countries are issues of destiny, not mere appearance and theater. It's not theater. It is about...
So you needed 5 terms to...
It's about what should be done. To do what?
Yes. Tell me.
To start from 0 to where we are now. Start from 0, because we were at 0. We are now able to do things by ourselves.
Why in other democracies like the United States and Western Europe, why in those democracies we don't have one man ruling for 5 terms because he needs to do stuff?
That is because those countries have got a different history. But there are other countries. You talked about Israel. Let me give you the example of Israel. Israel is near you here. It is a democracy. Their leaders, what they do, since they created their state, they maximize their leadership resources, because leadership is also a resource. They have the old leaders, like the one who died recently, Shimon Peres. They have the young ones who came later, and they all compete.
Okay, why don't we have more than one leader in Uganda?
They all
Mr. President, why don't we have more than one leader in Uganda?
Because
you have raised Uganda. You have been...
My party has been winning. Is that an offense to win elections?
No.
What are you worried about?
Yeah, but
Suppose Shimon Peres had been winning in Israel.
oh, it never happened in Western democracy.
Well, that's their problem because they don't.
So they have a problem.
They have a problem because they don't have enough consensus. If we have consensus,
Or maybe they have many leaders, more leaders.
even in Uganda we have many leaders. Even in Israel they had many leaders, but the parties made some mistakes and people voted against them. But if my party has not made serious mistakes, why should I commit suicide? Say I should kill myself because my party has not made a mistake, because my party led its people through liberation, it has made them through economic recovery.
Let's go back to the philosophy behind you deciding to run for term after term. Is that because you think you are the best to rule Uganda?
Because the issues to solve are serious, and it's the
And
best.
no other man can solve them.
It is the best that we know. Others come and present themselves. But when the population looks at them and says, no, this party.
They're not qualified.
Uh-huh.
They're not qualified.
Yes.
Okay.
According to the population, not according to me.
So what does this say about your leadership? You have been ruling this country for about 31 years and you couldn't raise other leaders to take over after you because
No,
you're not going to be here forever. What
the-
does it say about your leadership, about the educational system, or probably about the political system, that no other Ugandan has been elevated during your presidency to be equally capable of leading the country?
The other leaders are there, but to maximize the leadership input, we use all our leaders, the young ones, the old ones. Now
They want to come. They want to come forward, but they're not allowed. They're not allowed.
This is not about wanting. This is the whole problem. You're talking about wanting. I want. It's not you wanting. It is what the situation demands. You are trying to deal with the situation. You are not in a theater, just acting. So the leaders are there. We are a population of 40 million. We have got 130 districts. All those districts need leadership. The parliament needs leadership. The ministries need leadership. It's not.
The country needs leadership.
Yes.
One man cannot rule the country forever.
Not forever. But according to the peoples, as long as you have got regular elections, then you don't have any point other than concentrating on the who rather than the what. For us, we concentrate on the what is to be done. And it is the what that gives us the who.
Mr. President, you said that the Ugandans, they don't see anybody else as qualified as yourself to rule the country. And now,
when they go for the elections,
after 5 terms, you are now 71 or 72, I don't know.
72.
In 3 years, you will reach the age limit, and you can't run for another term. Who is there in the country now, qualified, capable, sitting in the wings, waiting to be the next leader?
The people of Uganda are there. They will select who, according to the what. You remember, you spend all your time. I always watch your Al Jazeera. Spend all your time on the who. You could spend a little bit more time on the what, because what changes things is what is done, what is to be done. So my people will decide on the who according to the what the problem they are facing, which needs to be solved.
According to some of the reports I read, you have demanded to be given the right to choose the next leader of Uganda, your own successor.
I cannot demand
That's
that
not true.
because it is the people. The people are there.
Okay.
The people have been electing me in spite of Al Jazeera and.
Are you going to run for another term? The President will address that question and other topics as we continue our interview with President Museveni on the next episode of Talk to Al Jazeera. There are reports that you are about to change the constitution so that it can allow you to run for another term. In history, how can you guarantee that you will not be remembered as a dictator instead of a democratic president? According to some of the reports I read, you have demanded to be given the right to choose the next leader of Uganda, your own successor.
I cannot demand
That's
that
not true.
because it is the people are there.
Okay.
The people have been electing me in spite of Al Jazeera and...
Are you going to run for another term?
We follow our constitution.
So you're not going to run for another term?
We follow our constitution.
Because you reach the age limit in 3 years and you will not run.
We follow the constitution of Uganda.
Can you explain that?
That's what I've told you.
But there are reports that you are about to change the constitution so that it can allow you to run for another term.
I've told you.
Is that going to happen?
We follow the constitution of Uganda, and that is the will of the people of Uganda.
Are you going to change the constitution?
I cannot change the constitution because I don't have that power.
But is this something that is in the discussion now in Uganda?
That is speculation, and I don't have time for speculation.
Reports also say that you are preparing your own son, who is now very highly elevated in the army, and you're also special advisor on certain issues. Your wife also is a minister. She's sitting next to you in the cabinet. Reports that you are preparing one of these two to be the next leader of Uganda. What do you say to this?
Why should I prepare them? It is the people of Uganda to choose the one they want.
If I ask the people of Uganda, maybe they will say something different, because we are reading what the opposition says and what the Ugandans say, and it is different from what you say.
Why do you read what the opposition says? Why don't you read?
You said you asked me to ask the people. The people say something different.
The people are not only the opposition.
So I should ask only the half of the people
who ask the
support
opposition. You are supposed to have balanced reporting. That's what you are supposed to be doing. Ask the opposition.
The pro-government people.
You ask the opposition, but also ask the other people. Those people are there. The people of Uganda are there. They will elect the person they want. There's no way I can choose for them, my wife or my son, or even other people. Forget about...
But right now, members of your family are very close to you now, closer to you than anybody else. There are reports saying that you are now focusing on your own relatives, and this is nepotism, giving them higher seats in the government. Isn't that nepotism, Mr. President?
That's not nepotism. The few members of my family who are involved on their own merit. My wife, against my advice, she went and stood for the elections and had the biggest majority in the whole country.
Because she is your wife? Maybe.
Yes, because it's partly true.
She got the majority because she's your wife.
Because the population appreciate what I have done on part of my family.
So it's not her qualities; it is her relation to you that gave her the vote.
No, it is also her.
That's
quality.
What you said.
It is also her quality. It is also her quality. But of course, in perception, sometimes they can associate you with the...
So maybe your son will be elected leader after you because he's close to you. He's your son.
That is for them, because I told you that when my wife wanted to join politics, I didn't support it, mainly because it is a bit strenuous. I was concerned about her being strained, running up and down. But the population insisted, and she was elected. Big majority.
Are you afraid of Facebook now? There is this thing called Facebook revolution in Uganda, and we have this TVO anonymous guy trying to mobilize the population. Are you afraid of a kind of Arab Spring happening in Uganda?
No, we shall, because they tell lies, we tell the truth. So that's all we do. They tell lies using
So opposition tells lies, government tells truth.
Yes.
That's what you are saying.
Yes.
Why?
Because they are,
everything the government says is true. Everything the opposition says is lies.
Many of the opposition are poor leaders. Because, leading a country like Uganda is not simple. It needs sacrifice. It needs people. First, in the past, we had to die to fight. It was not just you had to sacrifice. But even now, we have got to sacrifice, to spend a lot of time to go to the population, to solve their problem.
So only the government and the ruling party sacrifices. The opposition doesn't sacrifice. How can we say this? They are half of the population.
If they are not half, we always
okay, they are a big chunk of the population.
Yes.
How can they all be mean and not nationalist?
Not all the opposition. but some elements of the opposition, they tell lies, a lot of lies. That's how we defeat them. Because when we come, we say the truth. So even this internet, whatever they are doing, we shall defeat them by...
Who is TVO? Who is this Okavanga or Okavinga? Who is he?
There are some... They are known by the intelligence people.
Oh, really? So why don't you capture him?
They will... Well, I'm not an intelligence person, so okay. I don't know.
Talking about capturing and people who are, at large, let's talk about LRA, the Lord Resistance Army. Where is Joseph Kony now?
We defeated them in Uganda.
How many times have you defeated them?
Oh, yes.
Many times. So why aren't they finished?
Well, we defeated them.
How many defeats do you need to finish them?
We defeated them in Uganda, in South Sudan.
Everywhere.
In the Central African Republic.
And they are only a few hundred.
They fled to. Yeah. They fled to wherever they fled.
Where are they now?
They are hiding some places, which we.
Yesterday, there was a report about Ugandan troops winding down their presence in the Central African Republic.
Yes.
Because they say they have finished the job. What do you mean by finish the job? What does it mean?
What happened was that the new American government, because for us, Kony is not a problem to Uganda. We defeated him. He cannot come back. If he comes back, he will be dead. But we had to help our African brothers to hunt, because fighting in the forest is not easy.
And there are those who accuse you.
And we are doing it with the partnership of the Americans. Now, the new American government said they didn't want to continue, so we said, okay.
So are you saying, Mr. President, that Joseph Kony is no longer a Ugandan problem?
He's not. He has not.
He's no longer.
He has not been for a long time, because we defeated him out of Uganda.
So why are you chasing him in other countries?
To help our African brothers. To help our African brothers. Why are we in Somalia? Have you heard that we're in Somalia?
We'll talk about that.
Yes.
You're accused of using Joseph Kony and his few hundred men as a pretext, excuse to go into other countries and send your army to other countries like South Sudan, Central African Republic, and Congo to do what you want there, to help whoever you want to help, to interfere in the affairs of those countries. And we will talk about South Sudan in this respect.
Okay, now we are going
How do you answer to this?
Now we are now going back. Let's see how Uganda suffers by not being in Central Africa.
How Uganda suffers?
Yes, let's see whether Uganda will lose anything by not being in Central Africa.
But you're gaining something by sending your troops, interfering in the affairs of others. And we'll talk about South Sudan. Your troops have been in South Sudan in 2014 and 2015. And you have sided with the government of South Sudan, with a part of the government against the other. And by that, you have prolonged the civil war in South Sudan. And thousands of people were killed. And you were fighting alongside one of the two sides. So you were actually putting more fuel to the civil war in South Sudan.
Not at all, because what happened was that when the fighting started in South Sudan, there was a regional meeting which called for a ceasefire. Nobody should continue fighting, so that we get a political solution. Now, one of the factions refused and started fighting, and was coming to Juba.
Is that enough excuse for you to send troops there?
Yes, because...
Why did you side with Salva Kiir against Riek Machar?
Because the one who broke the ceasefire was the other one.
But you're not the regional force there to impose things on the Sudanese. They are fighting each other. Why do you side with one of them? Why didn't you send your troops to keep the peace and not to fight alongside one group?
Because the other one was on the offensive.
According to you. But according to Riek Machar, he is not on the offensive. According to him, he is defending
offensive
himself.
Means you are moving forward.
I mean, it's your own judgment.
No, it's not judgment. This is dynamics on the ground. You move forward. If you observe ceasefire, you stay in one place. So he was breaking the ceasefire, in order to come and attack the town.
And it is your role, Uganda, the poor country that has, doesn't have enough resources for its own infrastructure, for the well-being of its own people. It is, you take it upon yourself to go into another country, to stabilize another country, to fight against one group against another. What kind of policy is this?
The African people...
How is this going to benefit Uganda?
We, the African people, we have been poor, but we have been defending ourselves. We defeated the whites even when we were poor, and we were helping each other. When there is somebody who is making trouble, like that Riek Machar fellow was doing, we stood with the regional opposition, which was stand still, ceasefire, don't move.
You sent your troops to Southern Sudan or South Sudan without the agreement of your parliament and without a mandate by the African Union. And that's because, according to the reports, because you have interests with Salva Kiir, because Uganda is importing and exporting goods between Uganda and South Sudan. So it's economic interests, interference, no mandate by AU, no mandate by the parliament.
Well, first of all, you can have bilateral relations between two states. Okay? Do you know anything about international law?
A little bit. Yeah.
Yes, a little bit. So use that a little bit to improve your understanding. An elected
so you need the agreement of, by constitution, you need the agreement of the parliament.
An elected government can have a bilateral agreement, forget about the regional, even bilateral, to help each other.
But within the framework of a region, African Union is an organization that supervises this kind of things. In Somalia,
the ceasefire which had been called was by the regional summit, the IGAD. We had an IGAD summit.
So let's talk about your troops in Somalia. They have been there for the better part of a decade, maybe an entire decade, and they haven't achieved much. Are you going to withdraw them?
No, they have stabilized Somalia.
It's not stable until now.
They have stabilized Somalia. Yes, there are still some problems, but the situation would have been much worse. They have stabilized Somalia. Our only concern is that Somalia has not built their national army. That's what we encourage them to do. But otherwise, the population, if you go to Mogadishu, the population is full.
And they have, according to reports, your army has committed atrocities in Somalia. They have killed civilians inside Mogadishu several times. They have caused a continuation of the conflict instead of putting an end to the conflict.
No. Yes, we have stopped Al-Shabaab from taking over. We are very sorry about that. If you support Al-Shabaab, then I'm sorry for you. So you must be disappointed if you support Al-Shabaab. It is true that we have defeated Al-Shabaab. We stopped them from taking over. But Al-Shabaab is an extremist group, contrary to our African culture of tolerance. We live and let live. This is how we live in that area.
So you're there to... So it's a moral war against Al-Shabaab.
It is. It is moral and ideological for Al-Shabaab. We don't have a border with Somalia. Because you said South Sudan, we are there for interest. Now there is Somalia, so your logic.
There is this other explanation going around that actually sending your troops abroad, like in the case of Somalia, is a source of income, because these troops get very big salaries. Actually, Uganda has been sending its army into several African countries, and this has created, according to the reports, the accusations, a great source of income for the country. So are you selling the services of your troops to get back?
Not at all. When we were in South Sudan, we were there at our own cost.
That's because you have economic ties with South Sudan.
It seems you have not heard of something called solidarity. Fraternal solidarity.
That could be a banner for it, yeah.
No.
That could be the cover for it.
My dear friend, when we fought the Portuguese in Angola, in Mozambique and Angola, the frontline states, Tanzania, Zambia, Who was paying them? When we stood against Ian Smith in Rhodesia, who was paying those countries? They were actually losing. This is the tradition of African freedom fighters. I am part of the African freedom fighters. If you have not seen any, I am one. Here you have one.
Okay.
Bloomberg. Now, remember, put it in your logic of Al Jazeera, that Africans will defend their freedom. Even though they are poor, you are saying because you are poor, you cannot defend your
your soldiers are
your rights.
Mr. President.
No, you are the one who said that because you are poor, you cannot defend your rights. And I have told you that we have fought and defeated the colonialists, even in our poverty.
Okay, that was a long time ago. But let's talk about now, when your troops are being highly paid, while Somali troops are almost not paid at all. When your troops in Somalia are highly paid, they are sending millions of dollars back to Uganda. That's no longer freedom fighting. That's no longer humanitarian help. And let me refer to this article by Bloomberg, May 10, 2016, under the title, Uganda Stop Export Mercenaries. Not only soldiers. Uganda is also encouraging its own citizens to go and be mercenaries.
Mercenaries where?
Yeah, it's here. It's mentioned in this article by Bloomberg, and it seems to be very well documented. They call it private military contractors. That's the euphemism for it. And it here says in Iraq, Ugandans protect U.S. diplomats in Baghdad and Basra. They also guard businesses and aid workers in Afghanistan and Somalia. It's a long article talking about this, and it has lots of figures in it. So it's been going on for many years. Uganda sending its own citizens to be mercenaries across the world for payment.
No, those are security companies, private security companies.
Yes, but you know about them, and it is
yes,
going on.
we know about them, and you see what is a fact is that because of our liberation struggle, because we fought wars and defeated them by our own means, so we have a tradition of fighting.
So you have a surplus of fighters to send to other countries?
No, it's not a surplus. It is our people have that courage and experience.
And they want to use it everywhere.
So when there are these security groups, they don't go to fight those wars. Those are not wars. It is to guard houses, to guard infrastructure, to guard.
The same article says.
Haven't you seen? Don't you have private security organizations here in Qatar?
You have 20,000 Ugandan security guards across the world. That's a big figure for Uganda, a small country. And the article says armed guards are Uganda's top export. Mercenary remittances surpassed coffee exports in 2009. Coffee has been the biggest source of income for Uganda. Now mercenaries, the income coming from them,
that one
has surpassed coffee.
That one is an illiterate person. The biggest export,
who wrote this?
The biggest export of ours is industrial products to the regions of East Africa, industrial products. The next one is tourism. Coffee is not the top exporter, export earning. It is something.
It used to be, yeah.
So that's obviously a lie. Tourism will get 1.5 billion from tourism dollars. So that fellow is a liar.
Going back to you, President Museveni, an Arab poet once wrote or said that you certainly get bored when you live for 8 decades. You're now in your 8th decade. Are you bored of being in the presidential seat for so much time? Are you about to decide to get retired?
I'm not. If I retire, it is not because I'm bored, because our history is that we are mission oriented. Each time we have a new mission for our people. Somebody with a mission cannot be bored.
So how much more time do you need to finish the job? You always say, I want to finish the job. How much time do you need?
It is not me. It is our country, our party. We are the ones who look at our situation and decide what to do.
You say you have done a lot for Uganda. What else? What is the major thing that you want to do next before you leave power?
We have identified 10 strategic bottlenecks that have constrained Uganda and Africa to some extent. I don't have time to go through them, but I can tell you about 2 of them. And it would be good if you had the document and you read them. Because I always see you with your friends on this group, Al Jazeera. You really dispense a lot of opinions and so on, but many of them are wrong, unfortunately. So if you want something about Africa, about Uganda, 10 strategic bottlenecks which have been a problem. One has been ideological disorientation, where people emphasize sectarianism, of religion, of tribe. Those problems you are talking about in South Sudan, in what they are caused by that ideological disorientation. In Uganda, we have fought to that. That's why Uganda is peaceful. Secondly, the narrow markets of Africa. Uganda is 40 million people, but that's not wide enough market to support modernization. So one of our programs has been integration, regional integration. That has been one of the bottlenecks, a narrow internal market, the fragmentation of Africa into small markets because of colonialism. Our program has been integration. It's happening. East African community.
Happening.
Yeah. East African community.
So once again, Mr. President,
common market of Africa, of Eastern Africa.
That's your next goal.
The third one, the third bottleneck. There are 10, but I've just mentioned the 3 because of time. The third one is, for instance, infrastructure development. You cannot have a modern economy if you do not have, for instance, electricity. Enough electricity and cheap electricity. So, our program of our party has been to deal with those bottlenecks, 10 of them.
How many of them are still there for you to achieve?
I don't have time to. If you read my writing, you will see.
So just tell me one of them, one thing you still want to achieve before you leave power.
Not before, whether I leave power or not, the target of our party is to have integration, deal with all the 10 bottlenecks. I've told you 3, the others I don't have time. All the 10 bottlenecks, including the one of integration, East Africa integration.
Okay, let's talk about you personally. Do you think you have achieved everything that you dreamt of in your young years?
I have not achieved everything, but I have achieved some of the targets, of the aspirations.
And the aspirations of the Ugandans?
Yes, and the aspirations of Uganda and Africa.
How do you want to see Africa in the future?
Want to see the political integration of East Africa. Our aim is to make East Africa one country, one state. It's now integrated economically, but together with our partners, we want East Africa to become one country. It is stated in our documents, all our documents. Then have a common market of the whole of Africa.
In history, how can you guarantee that you will not be remembered as a dictator instead of a democratic president?
As what?
How would you guarantee that in the future, in history, you won't go down as a dictator instead of a democratic president?
A dictator who is elected 5 times, that must be a wonderful dictator. That must be a special one. Elected 5 times with always big majority, that must be a wonderful dictator.